Hey guys, and welcome to the last session of our Homeschooling the Hard Subjects webinar series. If you've been following along with us, you know how much fun we've been having in this series. And if you need anything or if you want to go back and look at the previous webinars that we've done, you can search our Facebook page or YouTube, even on our website. They're all there for you. If you don't know who I am Brooke. I am the owner and creator of Homeschool Resource Co. And I am your host of most of these webinars. And I have Amelia DeField here with me from StoryQuest Academy or Homeschool Quest. And I'm going to let her talk to you for a minute, but I wanted to tell you a little bit about her. She's a professional copywriter, a homeschool advocate, and a short story author from North Idaho. For the past 12 years, she's been working as a business consultant and copywriter for small town and rural, a design and marketing agency. And when she's not writing or reading, you can find her painting birds or gardening. So welcome, Amelia. I'm excited to have you here with us.
Thank you. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to encouraging kids to really enjoy writing and being able to set themselves up for success by finding out about secrets from famous authors' writing routines.
Absolutely. So before we get started, if you have not yet, Amelia has given us a reading journal with it has author study worksheets, trading cards, and all kinds of fun stuff in there. If you want, you can go ahead and fill that out or print it out. If you don't have it or can't print it out at this time, you could always print it out later, watch the replay, or just follow along because she has some great slides to share with you. I do want to remind you that this webinar series is part of the Homeschool Collection, which is a big homeschool bundle that we do every year. It's our biggest sale, and it is 95 to 97% off of retail price. It's got some great products in it this year, and it will go on sale. Our preview collection will be from July 24th through the 26th. And then the homeschool sale goes on the 27th. So I'm really excited about that. And StoryQuest is actually participating with us this year. So that's exciting as well. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the Homeschool Quest and StoryQuest?
So the Homeschool Quest is an online community for homeschool families to be able to find free and affordable resources so that they can homeschool on it. And StoryQuest is focused on providing fun, creative writing courses for kids 8 to 12 and teens.
That sounds great. So why don't you, before we get started with your class, let's talk about a little bit what the class is going to be about and what we're going to go over.
So if you've ever wondered how famous authors like E.B. White from Charlotte's Web, Mark Twain, who wrote Adventures of Tom Sawyer, or Jane Austen were able to write amazing book after book, this class is going to be able to dive into the secrets that we can learn from these renowned authors' writing routines, and we're going to learn how we can apply them to our own writing routine. We're also going to be going over the secret writing sprint method developed just for StoryQuest to help you double your word count.
I love that. As a blogger, as a writer myself, I am always interested in learning more about that, and I hope my kids take that from me as well. So I'm going to go off screen. I will monitor the chat for you. If anybody has any questions, you can ask them in the chat on Facebook, on YouTube. We're streaming multiple places right now, but I can see all of that. So if you have questions, go ahead and ask them, and we will get Amelia to answer them for you. But I'm going off screen, so you can start whenever you're ready. And if you need some slides or anything, just holler because I'm here.
Yeah, if you could put my slides up on the screen, that'd be awesome. Okay, so if anyone has any questions before we start or needs a little more time to print those pages out, let me know. Otherwise, I'd love to get started with, if you guys could tell me where you're joining me from. I'm here, as she said, in North Idaho. You're probably going to hear my giant dog, Teddy Bear, in the background. He just loves to participate in the live videos. So we're going to be talking about these secrets of these writing routines. So we're going to be starting with Mark Twain. If you don't know him, he is the author of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, a really famous classic book that has been around for a long time. Hi, Susan. Thanks for joining us, all the way from South Carolina. So let's talk about his writing routine. He starts by eating a giant breakfast because food is an important fuel to be able to write well. Then after that, he locks himself in his study. And a study is like an office or like his room where he does all of his writing. And then after the whole day of writing, he will come out for dinner. And so he was very motivated, as you can see, by eating yummy and delicious food. And who isn't? So what we can learn from his writing routine is setting aside a space to be able to focus and be able to write effectively. And make sure that you have lots of writing fuel like snacks or a really big breakfast if you're going to want to get a bunch of writing done. This was his actual desk. See, it's got some books, but it is there's a blank wall on both sides. This is actually a museum where his desk is at. So you can see that it's very focused. He was going to sit down and he was going to get his writing done. So if you have the author trading cards, the first thing you want to do is you want to download those, print them out, and then we're going to be working on one of the pages here. Let's see. So on page 6 is the 4-part author trading cards. So you'll want to go ahead and download these as well as the back. So you want to print both sides so that we can fill out your trading cards. And I'm going to be giving you all the facts that you need to be able to fill these out. This is a really fun way to be able to not only collect information about all of these famous authors and their writing routines, but also a really fun way to be able to trade with other homeschooling families. So you can have them print out their own author trading cards, and then you guys can actually trade them. So it's super fun, especially if you're going to be doing it with your siblings, being able to draw a bunch of different authors and do your take on the author's portrait. So I showed you guys an example of what Mark Twain looks like so that you can be able to draw your own portrait. I highly recommend that you go on Google and actually search up Mark Twain so that you can be able to draw your own original portrait. You can use colored pencils, crayons, markers, whatever you like to use best. So we can go back to the other slides here and then I can tell you what to put on the back side. So Mark Twain was born on November 30th, 1835. He was born in Florida, Missouri, in the United States. I think it's kind of funny that there's a town called Florida in Missouri. So that makes it a very memorable fact. And one of his fun fact is that his real name was actually Samuel Clemens. Mark Twain was his pen name. So he actually wrote under a completely different name than his real name. So I would love to hear if you guys were going to be published author. Would you use your real name or would you use a pen name like Mark Twain? So on the author trading cards, it also says that you have to write down his very best book. If you haven't read any books by Mark Twain yet, I would recommend these 3 books for you to try out and see which one you like the best. Because everyone is going to have a different opinion on what is the best book by an author. So the only way that you can fill out this author trading card is to read a couple of books by the author so that you can make a determination. I would recommend looking at Adventures of Tom Sawyer, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and A Connecticut Yankee at King Arthur's Court. That one's a super fun time travel fantasy story. So if you enjoy that sort of thing, that one is a lot of fun, very humorous. Looks like Susan says that she would use her real name. That's very cool. Have you read any of these books by Mark Twain? And if so, which one is your favorite? So if you guys are done filling out your Mark Twain author trading card, we will go to our next author and learn about the secrets of her writing routine. Brooke says Tom Sawyer is her favorite. And William, you would use it looks like William James says he would use a pen name. Do you have an idea about what pen name that you want to use? I personally actually use a pen name as well. I use my first and middle name as my pen name. So for Jane Austen, she actually would get up early to play the piano before anyone else in her house woke up. This is one of the ways that she was able to get a lot of inspiration and be able to be inspired to write. After she played the piano, she would actually make breakfast for her whole family. And then she would write in their sitting room until dinner time. Then, after they had all eaten dinner, she would actually read what she had written that day, her work in progress stories, out loud to her family. I think that that's very brave because I have a couple of drafts that I'm just like, it's a first draft. It's not ready for the world. But Jane Austen would actually read it and get her feedback from her family every day on what she had written. So I think I can say that that is probably one of the reasons why her books are so much fun, because she was not afraid to get feedback from her family. And it looks like Susan says her favorite was Huckleberry Finn, and William says that he would use a completely different name. Very cool. Yes, Mark Twain and Samuel Clemens are very different names too. So this is Jane Austen's writing space. So this was the desk that her father got her. It was right by a window right here so she could look out and be inspired. So this is a good example of a very simple writing space, but she also liked to be able to look outside to be inspired. And this was later in life, she actually had a mobile little desk set up. And as you can see, it has hinges here. So it would actually close up so she could take it wherever she went to write. So it made it a lot easier for her to be able to write on the go and also to be able to write in a bunch of different places. So this is an example of what you could do for your illustration of Jane Austen for your portrait. So I would recommend that you search up Jane Austen on Google and then draw your very own portrait of the author. If you have a bunch of siblings that are all doing this, I would definitely recommend using a different picture for inspiration for each of you. That makes it so that your trading cards are absolutely unique and people will enjoy trading for them. So on the back side, you're going to want to put down her birthday as December 16th, 1775. She was born in the Stevenson Rectory in Hampshire, England. And a fun fact about Jane Austen's books is they were actually published anonymously, just listed as by a lady. So she didn't actually sign her books until after she had died. Her family actually identified and said, hey, the author is Jane Austen. So one of the reasons why she did this is during that time period, writing and publishing books, especially making a lot of your income off of that, supporting your family off of writing, was considered something that only men would do. And so she wanted to remain anonymous so that she didn't get any backlash or side eyes from the neighbors, but she was still able to support her family with her writing. So if you haven't read a novel by Jane Austen, I would highly recommend Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, or Emma. What is your favorite Jane Austen novel? Please tell me in the comments. Brooke says Sense and Sensibility. That is a really fun one. I would say that my favorite is probably not listed there, but it's probably Persuasion. So I would have to say I like that one the best. But my mom, who is a big Jane Austen fan, said that I had to have those three because those are the top three best ones. So if you're ready for your next trading card, we're going to be going over C.S. Lewis. He is the author of the Chronicles of Narnia. And Susan says that she hasn't read any Jane Austen novels, but she would want to read Sense and Sensibility first. Yes, that one is a lot of fun. So C.S. Lewis had a ton going on in his writing routine. So this, he said, was his ideal writing routine for a normal day. And normal days were hard to come by, but this is what he always strived for every day. So he tried to wake up and have breakfast at 8 o'clock, and then read or write till 1 p.m., and then eat a delicious lunch. So the reason he said that he wanted to read or write is because if he was really inspired, he would write down his ideas. But if he wasn't very inspired, he would spend this time reading to get inspired. And then he would go and take a walk after lunch. After he came back from the walk around 3:45, he would say. So from 1 to 3:45, he would have lunch and take a walk. So a long, lengthy walk, and he preferred it to be fast-paced and quiet. He would drink tea after he got back from his walk, and then he would write from 5 till around 7. So he would have 2 times where he would do in the beginning, he would either read or write, and then at the end of the day, he would always set aside some time for writing. And then after 7 p.m., he would eat dinner and chat with friends. He said that it is very important to actually make time to hang out with your friends and talk to people, because he said that it's really important to get inspiration. So he would make sure and read in the morning if you need inspiration, go for a walk, and hang out with his friends so that he could have multiple ways to be able to get inspired for his stories. William says that he owns the entire Chronicles of Narnia. Yes, I own the books too, and I actually have the Barnes & Noble special edition with the gold foil, one of my most prized possessions. And Brooke says that she has that as well. Yes, a very great series of books. So this is C.S. Lewis's desk. You can see he also had a window looking outside. He had a very simple desk, didn't like to have it very cluttered, and he had lots of books to be able to get inspiration from, and a very cozy chair to sit in. So if you're noticing a theme here, it's that these writers designed little writing spaces for themselves, and they actually had a place that they went to go and write. This is actually really important because our brains are funny things. So if we sit in a certain spot and we are not inspired, day after day, we have writer's block at the kitchen table when we go to sit. And that's where we go and write, doing most of our writing, but we have writer's block for a week or 2 weeks. Every time you sit at the kitchen table, your brain's going to be like, this is where we have writer's block. If you go and move to your room or move to the living room, you might find that your writer's block is totally taken care of. So if you have an exclusive spot where you sit and you're always sitting there when you're inspired and ready to write, your brain, as soon as you sit down there, it's going to be in the habit of writing and being inspired. So you part of this designing your writing routine, designing your perfect writing space. So go ahead and search up C.S. Lewis on Google and draw a portrait of the author so that you can start filling out your author trading cards. This is number 3 of 4. So C.S. Lewis was born on November 29th, 1898. He was born in Belfast, Ireland. And a fun fact for him is that the C.S. in C.S. Lewis stands for Clive Staples. A lot of really fun facts about the different authors' names. But I highly recommend you search up your own fun facts to customize your card so that it is absolutely unique. There's plenty of room to add more fun facts to your author trading card. So I picked out a couple of the Chronicles of Narnia books if you guys haven't read them, but it sounds like almost everyone has. But I would highly recommend The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, A Horse and His Boy, and The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Voyage of the Dawn Treader is my personal favorite Narnia book, and these are some really fun books. I would highly recommend that you read all 6 books in the series because they are such classic, great adventures for the whole family. So if you guys are ready, we can move on to our final author. So let's talk about E.B. White's writing routine. He's the author of books such as Charlotte's Web and Stuart Little. So he would start the day after he's had breakfast, he would pick up the house. He said that one of the things he struggled with the most was procrastination. And I think we can all relate to that. When we are supposed to be writing, we will do everything except write. We'll clean the dishes, we'll do a load of laundry, sweep the floors. And so he just got that all out of the way up front. He's like, I'm just going to clean the whole house so I don't have anything to procrastinate on. And he said that writers should always sit down and write. You're always going to have distractions, and you just have to find a way to get yourself to sit down and actually write, because inspiration does not come to those who wait. It comes to those who write. And I love that quote. So he would actually sit down in the middle of the living room. He said it was just an absolute carnival. It was the place where there was doorways to the cellar, to the kitchen, to all the other rooms. And so his family would come running through, and he said that nobody would even realize that he was there, much less trying to make a living writing books. And so once he got overwhelmed with the just pandemonium happening in his living room, he would retreat to the boathouse that he had set up with much less distractions. Super simple setup. And then he would write and wait for his wife to get him for dinner. You can notice a theme here that a lot of people would set aside that time from lunch to dinner, or from breakfast to lunch. They would set aside some time every day to write. Now, if you are homeschooled and you have a lot of other subjects to cover in a day, you may not be able to spend your whole day writing, but the principle still remains the same. If you can set aside even 30 minutes in your day, every day or once a week, to spend time writing, you are going to be able to produce novel after novel. You're actually going to be able to make progress instead of being stuck on the first 3 chapters for weeks. Because if you actually plan time and set it aside, you don't do anything else, you're actually going to be able to write more. So this is the boathouse that I was talking about. As you can see, super simple. And this actually is his farm that was actually the inspiration for Charlotte's Web is actually for sale right now. And the people who own it actually went ahead and kept everything as original as they could. So you can see that he just had a super simple little desk, and he's in a wastebasket for all the bad ideas. And he would retreat to here to be able to do more focused writing. So go ahead and search up E.B. White on Google so that you can draw a picture of the author for your trading card. And don't forget to add Minnie, his loyal dachshund. It was one of his, well, he was one of the most famous authors to have a pet that he absolutely adored. As you can see, even in his author photo, there was loyal dachshund. So be sure to include the dog in the author card. Hi, Ellen. And yes, William, you own Charlotte's Web as well. That's great. Yeah, I really like the novels. So for his trading card, you're going to put down his birthday as July 11th, 1899. He was born in Mount Vernon, New York, in the United States. And the fun fact about E.B. White is that throughout his life, he went by the nickname Andy, which is a nickname that he received in college, even though his real name was not Andy. So it sounds like a lot of people enjoy Charlotte's Web, so you guys can put that down as the best book by the author. But he also wrote Stuart Little and Trumpet of the Swan. So if you haven't read those books and you enjoyed Charlotte's Web, I'd highly recommend you add those to your list to read this summer. So we have talked about all of these different authors' writing secrets. Do you guys have any questions about the different authors' writing routines before we get into designing your writing routine? Oh, William has read all of the E.B. White books that I put up on there. Good job. So you can definitely have an expert opinion when you put down his best book. So writing should be fun. That's the most important part. So creating a fun writing routine will help you be inspired and get your brain in the writing mood. There are so many writing routines, like we just went over, that are used by famous authors. So it's important to remember to find what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for everyone. So that's why you need to create your own custom writing routine that is fun, helps you to enjoy writing, and helps you to be productive. So let's talk about designing your writing space. We want to carve out a writing oasis for your brain to feel inspired to write when you sit down at your writing desk or your secret spot in the library. That's my secret dream, is to have a little spot in the library set aside just for me. So the goal is you need to set the mood. And that means look, taste, sound, touch, and smell. And those are the 5 senses that you want to consider when talking about setting the mood. You want your surroundings to look inspirational or free from distractions. There's 2 different thought processes on this. If you looked at Mark Twain's desk, he had a bunch of books. C.S. Lewis, he had a library. So you want it to be either inspiring to you, or like Jane Austen setup or E.B. White setup, you want it to be completely free from distractions. When it comes to taste, you want to consider having a writing snack or a tea before you sit down to write, so you can make yourself a treat. Just like all the authors made sure to have a big breakfast or a lunch before they sat down to write, so their brain had fuel to write. You can either snack or sip on your tea while you're writing, or use it to motivate yourself every time you accomplish one of your writing goals. So I have a tea here with me, and it's a really great way to be able to keep focused. So you don't get distracted and procrastinate by saying, oh, I shouldn't write. I'm going to go and make myself a snack. You already have one. The third thing you need to keep into consideration is sound. So this can be picking a place that is quiet. E.B. White said that after he'd been in the living room, he couldn't wait to get away and be somewhere quiet. Or you can play some inspirational music to get you in the writing mood. If music is too distracting for you, you can try listening to some ambient nature sounds or white noise. I say this because when you're in a big family and you have a bunch of different siblings, sometimes finding somewhere perfectly quiet isn't super realistic. So being able to have that ambient noise in the background will kind of help quiet down your space so that you can be able to focus while you're writing. Now we're talking about touch. Make sure that you're comfortable before you write. This is one of the biggest inspiration hacks that I have found. I have a specific writing jacket that I like to wear that's super comfy. In the winter, I put on a pair of fuzzy socks because it's essential to my writing productivity that my feet are warm. If you live in a hotter part of the world, turning on a fan or opening a window might increase your comfort and decrease distractions. Then finally, talking about smell. This could be candles, air fresheners, essential oil diffusers. There's a lot of different ways to make your writing station smell nice. While some people think this is optional and totally above and beyond, many studies have shown that our strongest memories are associated with smells. So if we're trying to remind our brain that this is a place for us to be productive and not to get writer's block, having a nice smell that is specifically associated with your area, like the smell of old books in C.S. Lewis's library, or in E.B. White's library, being in the boathouse and having that ocean smell, these are things that can help inspire you. So do you guys have any questions about designing your writing space? Yes, I love the smell of books as well. That's why I want to write in a library. That's my dream. Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty of creating your writing routine. So let's talk about pre-writing habits. This is one of the most important things, in my opinion, to a successful writing routine, is the things that you do before you write. So some people like to meditate. Some people like to take a walk, like C.S. Lewis. Other people like to listen to a playlist. I know my brother, who is a prolific writer, he has tons and tons of different story playlists for different characters, different scenes that help him get into the mood to write individual scenes and specific characters. Some people like to take a nap. This can help, especially if you are really tired. You just got back from, soccer practice or going on a field trip, and you're like, oh, I'm so tired. I don't think I can write. Go take a quick nap. Mark Twain sometimes liked to write his stories in bed, and he said that sometimes helped him to get unstuck in whatever part he was stuck in his story. And so be encouraged that trying a new place to write or taking a quick nap before you write is a great way to be able to be energized and ready to write. No worries, William. I totally understand. The other thing you can do is review your Pinterest board. So if you have like a Pinterest inspiration board for your story, being able to go through and review it and be reminded of what the scenes look like and the characters so that you can be able to describe it vividly, or you can read your outline. If you don't have an outline for your story, you definitely need one, and you can actually find a free outline worksheet and lesson over at StoryQuest Free Writing Resources, so you can go and check those out. I highly recommend that you take that lesson and take a look at that, because it is a huge productivity hack to have an outline. Now, I used to be called a discovery writer. I was allergic to outlines, but I have found that even if you do a very simple outline, it will help you to be able to write faster and accomplish your goals with your writing much quicker. So it doesn't have to be super detailed. And I found that I created an actual outline that helps people, whether you want to do something super simple or go a little bit more in depth if you're more of a planner. So let's talk about finding the best time. Now, I've included, you need to track how many words you write during different times of the day. The most important thing is to find a time that you can write consistently rather than a bunch all at once and then none. For example, maybe you write best in the morning, so you'll try to set aside some time after you've done your homeschool chores or your home chores or your homestead chores, or set aside some time at your lunch break to write. So you want to actually try writing in the morning, before lunch, after lunch, and before dinner. You want to try to set aside some time at these different times while you're still figuring out what the best time is for you to be able to write, because everybody is productive at different times of the day. So you need to figure out, just because one author always wrote in the morning and others always wrote at night doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be one of those. I find that I am most productive first thing in the morning and then right after dinner. So that's when I do most of my writing. So you need to figure out when you are going to write the most, rather than writing a bunch of words and then not being able to get back to writing for several days, because that is going to make you the most productive. Next secret is to set a time limit. Setting a limit may seem counterintuitive, but Parkinson's law states work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. So before you start writing, set a time limit. This can be anything from 5 minutes to a half an hour. One of the important things about setting a limit is actually respecting that limit. After 30 minutes or an hour, you need to step away from your computer or notebook. You can always set a longer timer next time. If you don't work well with the time limit, deciding on a particular word count you want to get to during your writing session is another great way of setting a limit. The benefit of doing this is that you will be consistent. So rather than writing for 4 hours one day and then none the next because you used up all your words, you will write for an hour every single day. And consistency is much better than sporadic writing, because it might be that you write for 4 hours a day for a month. You may go 3 months without writing after that. So you set a consistent schedule that is easy for you to actually accomplish. Now, this is another important point, and that is that you need to set a realistic goal. So when I'm talking about a realistic goal, it's important to remember the story of the hare and the turtle when setting a goal for yourself. The turtle set out with a consistent pace, whereas the hare ran as fast as he could and got tired really quickly. While the hare was resting, the turtle won the race. It isn't about writing the most or the fastest. It's about having a consistent pace that you can maintain over a long time. So they say slow and steady wins the race. I say consistency wins the race. So another step to having a fun and consistent writing routine is having accountability. This actually is a lot of fun if you can find other people to write with you. This is an often overlooked part of having a good writing routine. You can either share a post on social media with your goal for the day or find an accountability buddy like a fellow writer, a sibling, or another homeschool friend that you can write at the same time. I found an accountability buddy to be a great way to actually stick to my writing routine because a lot of times they'll send me an email or a message and say, hey, I'm doing my writing. Where are you at? I'll be like, oh yeah, I gotta go and do my writing. It's a really great way to be able to have a lot of fun because doing writing sprints with friends is way more fun than doing it on your own. So let's talk about some general tips for success. It's really important that you do not judge your first draft. Most important part of any writing routine is realizing your first draft is not going to be your best draft. It simply isn't. And sometimes life's going to get in the way of writing. So don't make it worse for yourself by feeling guilty or ashamed of your writing. Writing isn't about making something perfect. It's about getting an idea out there so you can shape it into a wonderful story. The best metaphor of writing that I've ever heard is that every writer is a potter and their words are their clay. It takes time to shape the clay to a pot and fire it in a kiln. Similarly, you need a first draft, clay, so that you can shape it into a story, a pot, and polish it, bake, until it's done. So I also want to encourage you guys to test and keep track of your progress. There's nothing more encouraging being able to see that you're consistently writing more words or being able to carve out time every single day. Being able to have that consistency and see your successes is one of the most encouraging things. And honestly, do not forget to have fun. Okay, if you've made it this far, I'm going to reveal to you the super secret StoryQuest method for writing sprints that is going to actually help double your word count. And you might be asking, well, how do I know that it's going to double your word count? That's because I have actually spent many years perfecting this method, and I have worked with authors all around the world to test and find the perfect method for writing sprints. So, what are writing sprints? That's the question I get asked most often. These are timed writing exercises to help you write faster. Just like a runner can cover more ground when sprinting, you can build your word count faster with writing sprints. You can run solo writing sprints, but I highly recommend you find an accountability buddy to do them with you. So, what do writing sprints do for you? Many writers must learn to squeeze that writing time in their everyday life. Like I said, it might be after chores and before school, or it might be after schoolwork and before lunch, or after dinner. So you need to be able to learn to squeeze in as much writing time as you can. Writing sprints help to train your writing muse to be ready at a moment's notice and increase your overall words per minute. So here's the rules. You have to turn off all distractions. No phone, no social media scrolling, or chatting with fellow writers during a writing sprint. Start with a few 5 to 10 minute writing warm-ups before you get started on your main writing sprint. Do not edit as you write. Very important fact. You have to focus on just writing. And be sure to write down your word count before you start so you can track how much you added to your story each sprint. You want to set a timer on your computer or on your phone and decide what story and scene you want to write before setting your timer. Can't help me tell you how much this actually helped. A lot of times I would be like, okay, I'm going to sit down and write. Then I'd spend the next half an hour trying to decide which story am I inspired to write. That used up all my writing time, and by the time that I was ready to actually sit down and write, I had no more time left to write. So let's talk about the writing warm-ups. Before you write for a full 30-minute writing sprint, you should start with 3 micro warm-up sprints and work your way up to the full 30 minutes. Start with 5, then 10, then 15. I've run writing sprints with lots of authors online and in the real world, and I've noticed a significant improvement after following this warm-up schedule rather than starting with a 30-minute word sprint right away. So 5 minutes, then 10, then 15, then 30. And then you can run 30-minute sprints from there, and you will notice that your word count output is twice as much if you just set a 30-minute timer and started writing right away. So to run a writing sprint with a group of people, you want to set a timer, announce when the sprint ends, and ask for everyone to announce their word count. Then you crown the person with the largest word count as the winner and ask everyone to read their favorite sentence. So if you guys haven't already checked out the author study, I'd love, Brooke, would you mind putting that up on the screen so I can show them the freebie that I'm giving them? So it is actually 12 pages of super fun worksheets to help you to be able to study authors. It's really important for you to be able to learn about these different authors so that you can incorporate their best advice into your writing routine. So this is a worksheet to focus on author. You can be able to have a lot of similar information, and you actually get to draw covers of your favorite books. This is an author report, which is focused mostly on, again, drawing and being able to add a bunch more information, as well as focusing on what's your favorite book, asking about your favorite character. These are some more trading cards. So if you wanted to do more authors, have your own unique border, this has more information here. This one is simpler, so it has just 4, more room for fun facts. And this is a list of your favorite authors, favorite book, and books of them that you want to buy. This is a super fun author bingo with amazing authors that you can be able to read a bunch of different classic books by famous authors so that you can be able to get inspired to write your own great American or great British novel. This is an author challenge so that you can focus on writing the books that you need and the books that you've already read. Again, we want to find the very best novel by each author, and the only way to do that is to read all the books by the different authors. And finally, this will help you to figure out who your favorite author is, your favorite all-time author, and then you get to draw the cover of the book. The way that you do is you add each of the different authors in these different boxes, and then you compete. Do you like C.S. Lewis versus J.R.R. Tolkien? Which one wins? And it's a fun tournament, and it is a really fun printable. So go ahead and download that for free. This is just 11 pages out of the 125 that are available in the reading journal. And you can get access to that reading journal in the upcoming Homeschool Resource Bundle. I'm seriously so excited for this bundle, you guys. I took a peek at what's included, and it's amazing. There's so many resources that you guys are going to use for your homeschool. I can't wait for it to be available for sale. You guys should definitely put it on your calendars to go and grab it right away.
Hey, Amelia. All right. Is that all that you have for us today?
It is. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And
Absolutely.
you can also find me at the homeschoolquest.com or storyquestacademy.com if you have any questions after the class.
I am adding your link to your website there in the comments for anyone who needs to go do that. I have a child who joined me. But thank you so much for joining us today. I do want to remind you, thank you for talking about the homeschool collection and your product that's inside. We're really excited about that too. So, I did that wrong, guys. There we go. Story Quest Academy and the homeschoolquest.com. So, if you have any questions for Amelia, go ahead and type them in the comments. You can talk to us on Facebook. And you guys also have a really great Facebook group as well. Why don't you talk about that? And if you don't mind, dropping the link in the comments for us as well.
Sure. So over at the Homeschool Quest free and affordable resources, we have 140,000 plus members that are there. We are sharing all kinds of free and affordable resources that's under $30 in our group on a regular basis. So it is a super great community. If you have any questions about homeschooling, especially if you're first getting started, we have people that are here to answer your questions. And it is focused on being a warm and welcoming community. Our goal is to be able to help people to be able to homeschool affordably. So you asked, what is consistency? So the consistency is, let me first talk about what consistency isn't. So consistency is not writing for 4 hours one day and then none the next. So that's not consistent. But if you wrote for 1 hour one day, 1 hour the next, an hour the next day after that, you're consistently getting 1 hour of writing time every day. So you want to have consistency over writing a bunch all at once because it's not sustainable. So sustainable is something you can do every single day. So if you can write for 15 minutes a day, you can write for 15 minutes a day. That's going to be way more writing time over the long run, over a month or a year, than if you only write for 4 hours every week. You're going to actually get more done because it's a lot harder to make time for 4 hours of writing than 15 minutes. So you need to figure out how much time you have available in a day and work around that.
Absolutely. That is a great explanation. So if we have any more comments, we're going to chat for just a minute or so more before we go offline. We talked about the homeschool collection. We talked about story quests. We talked about your homeschool group. I know that on your website, there are lots of freebies and products and things like that as well. I think we covered pretty much everything. So if you haven't already, go ahead and head over to StoryQuest. Go ahead and download that free resource that's at the top of the page, and I can share that again here for you in the comments.
At StoryQuest, we're focusing on providing fun courses. So we go over stuff like this, writing productivity, as well as literature-based activities. Like, I think we have a Peter Pan vocabulary study and like origami boat. So it's all about being immersive and immersing yourself in really good literature, but also making it really fun and bringing these stories to life. So we're focusing on building writing skills, grammar skills, vocabulary, and reading comprehension. So it's a lot of fun. The courses we have over there, we have one that is the Adventure Quest, and we have Mystery Quest. We also have a weekly club where we're going through everything. So you get Adventure Quest, and we're focusing on Treasure Island and Peter Pan. Mystery Quest, where we're focusing on Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys. So a lot of really fun stuff over at the Story Quest Academy.
Absolutely. I love that. So again, thank you, Amelia, for joining us today. For those of you who missed our past webinars, or if you're watching the replay for the first time, you can check out those other webinars on our website, on our YouTube. They're even on Facebook. So go ahead and check those out. And if you have any questions, concerns, comments, tell us what kind of content you're looking for, the things that you love. Tell us how much you like this class. Anything that we can do to help you and make things better for your homeschool, that's what we are here for at Homeschool Resource Co. So thanks again, Amelia, for joining us, and everyone can join us back next week where we will have the homeschool collection. So thanks, guys.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.